I'm going to attempt to show you some designs using the ALMS system. So basically, I'm going to go in to my corrections. I'm going to select my file number. I load my file. The blue line is if I was going to mill an orthotic directly. I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to get rid of the orthotic overlay on there. And now I just have my mold or scan. And the first thing I do is basically, if I go to this view, it creates some mold shapes based off of the foot itself. And then I'm going to modify the ones that it just automatically selects. So I'm going to go back to my image view. I'm going to move and overlay it where I think it goes on the foot. I'm looking back here at these dots, and I want to make sure that the back portion is behind or posterior to the heel itself. So I'm going to give it one more click to move that entire thing approximately. And you can see now I see my dots here behind the heel. So I'm to the back. I've lined up in the back of the heel. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I can set kind of the length of the heel area. That's predetermined by our people doing the scanning, and they set that a little long. I'm going to widen the heel for my heel expansion. And then this particular order is a standard with the vise. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to first select my length. And here's my pin marking my joint bisection of the first metatarsal phalangeal joint. I want to come back to the neck of the first metatarsal. So the metatarsal head would be about in here. And I'm going to come over to this view and look. That looks a little short to me, so I'm just going to lengthen that a little bit. Again, that pin is placed by our technicians, and depending on the quality of the cast, etc., then that's just a guideline for me. So now I'm going to set my width. I've set the length. I'm setting my width to our standard width. And then I'm going to start sculpting or shaping the medial edge of the medial arch. Well, actually, the entire medial edge of the mold. I just go along these dots. And what I'm trying to do, typically I want just a nice smooth radius in here. That's most orthotics. That's the shape that we're kind of aiming for. And then I've got my arch height displayed right here. I've got 25.7 millimeters. My heel cut depth, which isn't too critical if you're doing a mold, but certainly is if you're direct milling an orthotic. And then I'm going to go up to the top screen on the right here. This red line represents my balance platform, which you can see there's a little delineation right there. That's the proximal edge of my balance platform. And then the rest of it is flat up here. I can make this longer or shorter in some of the settings on the home page here. But typically it's about an inch. So in that for standard orthotic, that's typically fine. This cast was scanned with the heel vertical. So I can see here it's detecting 5.3 degrees of forefoot varus, or in other words, the forefoot is inverted 5.3 degrees relative to the vertical bisection of the heel. Now I'm going to move up to the next set of lines. So I've gone from a view up here to this cross section here. And I'm going to begin shaping. Again, I'm going to get pretty good contact, but this is going up towards this balance platform. So there's usually some fill in here in this area because you want to get a smooth transition. You don't want an abrupt, drop off from the platform down to the foot. So you need to have a little bit of fill in there. And that depends on the foot type, the foot shape, etc. And now I'm kind of coming down and contacting my foot, shaping out here laterally. You can see I've got a little extra width and I've got some space. between the dark gray cross-section of the foot. This lighter gray is the anterior aspect of the foot. So this is the cross-section. This dark gray is the cross-section right where I'm working right now on this line right through the very apex of the arch. And you can see, so here it would be my lateral expansion, the distance between the foot and here. And I've got a slight amount of extra width there. I don't have any filler in the arch because you can see there's total contact here. And I'm going to add a little more filler in here. So now I'm at 23.9 millimeters. That's the arch height from the ground, essentially. So this is inverted or turned upside down, but from the hypothetical plane of the ground, my arch height is 23.9 millimeters. I'm going to go back up to the top window here and do a little final shaping there. Then come back and check those. Now I'm going to go into my rear foot view. So now, again, I'm just shaping. I get a nice radius. I want pretty good contact. This is the medial side of the heel in this section right here, the most posterior section of the heel that allows me to modify. This control line is movable, but typically we just use the default control line. And so everything I want on the medial side, I want pretty good tight contact. And again, here's my lateral side, and I've got some space between the foot and where the mold is going to be. So that's my lateral expansion. And then I'm going to come down here in this heel section here and just kind of tighten up these dots just so there's no bulging or wrinkles. You want a nice smooth radius there. And then I'll go back up and look. Everything looks good there. Now I'm going to go back to my forefoot view, and I'm going to look. This is viewing from the medial side. I'm going to switch over to the lateral side. And now I'm going to straighten up my lateral border. I always do my lateral border last because the shape of that is dictated by the shape of the foot. I don't care where it is relative to the ground. So if I turn this back upside down, this could come up. If I had a really high lateral arch, it might be shaped up a little more this way. It could be flatter depending on the shape of the foot. So it really has to do, it's a reference with foot, not necessarily to the ground. And I can toggle through these lines again and check them. Now this particular order, they've requested that the device be manufactured 2 degrees inverted. So I'm going to, on my platform here, I'm going to move the medial side up, which will invert my platform. So now I've changed my platform angle from 0 to now 2 degrees inverted. I'm going to move the whole thing down a little bit, but I'm still at 2 degrees inverted. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do a little touch up here, reshaping along that lateral side. I'm going to check that. And they're going back and checking everything. I'm looking at shape. Everything looks pretty good to me there. So I'm going to write that file. And then I can look at these color shadings, these representations, and it, you know, and you can see my platform is inverted because if it was level, it would all be one color. But since it's inverted, this is higher medially than it is laterally. So that's why I'm getting a change in this color gradient. But again, all these, it's like a topographic map. All these colors basically represent changes in height. So the purple is basically contacting the floor, the ground, the counter, whatever you want to call your ground reference. And then it goes up there, and the shade just repeat as you go up from one to the other. So it goes purple, I guess, whatever that would be, kind of orangish red, this bluer one, a lighter blue, back to purple, red, etc. So it repeats. So that's good. It's telling me my block height for my milling, which doesn't really matter at this point. And then I'm going to do the other half. So when I come back in here and I select the right mold for that patient, I can click. I have the option to correct it from scratch, or in this case, I'm going to use the opposite corrections from the left foot. And now I'm going to just move it over onto the right. And I've got they're pretty symmetrical feet. Trying to get the width symmetrical. So I'm going to do some little adjusting. So the feet are fairly symmetrical, and the cast that the doctor took, the negative cast, he did a good job in capturing a lot of symmetry in the feet. So I can come up and do a little adjusting here. You see there's a little bit of a bump there. And that all looks pretty good. I could bring these dots up in its heel a little bit here if I want to be really particular, which I usually am, quite contacting my model. And it's actually slightly forward. So I'm going to move the whole thing back towards the heel, one click. Now I'm going to go back and do that. And those look like they're conforming pretty well. My mold. And now I'm going to write the file, meaning I'm going to save my file after bringing it over, importing it from the opposite side, which it reverses it, obviously. And now I'm going to write that file. Now, for this particular order, they do want an intrinsic metatarsal pad. So now I'm going to go to this padding program portion of the app. I'm going to select that file number, and I can do a plantar fascia if I want. There's a plantar fascia which I can move around and reposition and lengthen and widen, etc. But there's not one on here. I can do different kinds of accommodations. If I wanted, a styloid accommodation, I could move this over. I would do it probably there if I was doing a styloid accommodation. If I was doing an navicular accommodation, it would probably be over here in this area. I can do 2 of these types of accommodations. I'm limited to 2. It'd be nice to have more than that. But in this particular case, they just want an intrinsic metatarsal pad. And so we're going to go ahead and put that right here. And then I'm selecting my height. And here I'm going to go 0.10, and then I'll widen it up a little bit. So here's my readings for that: 1.4, 2.2, and 0.10. Write that. I'm going to put one on the opposite foot. Remembering my settings, or use 2.2, I hope. Concentrating on talking to you. I believe that's what I set it at. I'm going to go back to the same height here. And I'm going to write that. So that's essentially kind of a standard correction with one that had a little bit of an inverted platform. I'm going to show you an example. If I'm not going to save this, but for example, if I go back to the left on put the corrections back on, if I was going to do a medial heel skybe on this one, I would just basically, depending on, this is a judgmental thing, but I'm skiving off on the medial side, this more proximal section. That's probably about a 2 millimeter medial heel skybe. Actually had a little bit of a glitch in my lateral there that I didn't fix before. So I'm going to fix that, and then belong. I would do some more skiving here in a more anterior section. And then this is, again, just kind of like you would do with plaster. You're kind of that's subjective. We don't measure the height of that skive, etc. But I'm going to go ahead and take that out because it's not going to be in this one. But that, if I was doing a skive, that's basically what I would be doing. That's looking pretty good to my eye. I'm going to go forefoot. I'm going to look at the lateral. I got a nice lateral contour here. I look at the medial contour. I've got my nice radius here. I got my inverted platform. I can go back to my home screen, which again, a lot of this information is for direct mill, but it tells me my heel cup depth and my platform length, as I said, was typically about 1 inch. So I can adjust that and make it longer if I wanted a real long platform up here, etc. And then if I want to, I can view my corrections, and I can again look for any irregularities and shape. It gives me a variety of screens to go back and images to look at it. So there, I'm going to write that. So that's kind of the basic design with a sharp shape for designing a mold.